the adverse events associated with these products and their lack of effectiveness uh, is not something that he should be championing. Uh, and and he found that out during his rallies, during the presidential campaign, where when he'd start talking about OWS and the vaccine, uh, he was not getting the support that he thought he should get. But now he's finally come around, and I think that part of that, I speculate, may reflect the need to demonstrate support for his Secretary of HHS.
Our neighbor's choice.
Well, we're back for another program, and I'm excited to be joined by our friend of the program, someone who we've been talking to since before it was cool. He is, that means before the Rogans and everybody else started platforming him. He is Dr. Robert Malone. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good, David. It's interesting times. The CDC news cycle is now being measured in hours mostly. I can't. I'm gobsmacked at what's gone down over the last 3 weeks, and it continues.
Well, it seems like, a lot of people are really excited about Bobby Kennedy Jr. and some of the things they're hearing out. I think a lot of folks are really excited about what Trump seemed to perhaps signal that he was ready to consider a pivot with his recent Truth Social post that maybe Pfizer gave him data that wasn't exactly the full story. Let's start off with that. That's the hottest story breaking in public health right now. I just want to get your thoughts on this as someone who has been calling it pretty consistently throughout this ordeal of public health, including, you were criticizing the administration even while they were considering you for being a part of the administration. So I appreciate you being a straight shooter. So what do you think of this Truth Social post where Donald Trump is saying, hey, I got the best data. I mean, this data that Pfizer gave me was amazing. And yet people are saying maybe there's another side to this. So give me the full information now. I want it now. All caps, he said.
Well, furthermore, he went on to say that the CDC is tearing itself apart and he wants it to stop.
Yeah.
He wants it resolved. Um, so I think that there's a lot of nuance packed into that, and his sign off was unusual, maybe unique in his prior social media posts. Uh, um, I think it was President DJT was what he said. Uh, there's a lot of fascinating nuance in that Truth Social post of Sunday morning. And you've touched on some of it. I think that it can't be taken out of the context of what went down on Saturday, which was an amazing media barrage of and Senator Schumer calling for Bobby's being fired by the president. And
Right.
Just article after article after article after article, we documented it on X, all nothing supportive of the secretary, all calling for him to be fired or resigned.
Right.
Much like they all attacked me in a coordinated fashion, and particularly Blumenthal and others following on that smear from Blumenthal, calling for me to be fired by Bobby. Which didn't happen, for better or for worse. I can tell you, David, that it's not a cakewalk. It's not a fun task with the ACIP. It's a lot of tension, a lot of issues, and talk about long hours and no pay. It's a volunteer position. We get, for the 6 days we're down in Atlanta yearly, we get $250 a day, woo woo. Plus travel, that means we get to sit in the back of the bus and the air flights, and we get the privilege of staying at the Emory Hotel across from the CDC, a renowned hotspot. That's sarcasm. Um, so
Is that where swine flu broke out? Oh God.
don't even get me going on jokes about Deliverance and Georgia. Um, so in any case, uh, so there was just a barrage of attacks on Bobby, all predicated by this interesting character that resigned from the CDC. That I'll leave it to your readers and listeners' personal Googling of the internet or other searches on social media concerning this CDC leader who was initially appointed as responsible for vaccine equity and then and was the basically the chief whisperer to Rochelle Walensky on COVID policy and also on monkeypox policy. This is the person that advocated for universal monkeypox vaccination back in the day, using a vaccine that wasn't actually designed for monkeypox. So that's this individual has resigned, claiming that Bobby is politicizing the CDC, when in fact, I think any objective analysis would say that this person himself is the one that's politicizing.
That's the guy that's the Satanist or something, right? He has a history of some weird stuff. Yeah.
Satanist is one aspect. Full-on BDSM, leather, dog
Yeah.
collar, uh, um, over the top, full-page magazine spreads and gay literature. Uh, how this person, the only David, speaking frankly, which I like to do, this is another illustration of the consequences of the DEI policies that were advanced under Biden, and in particular became characteristic of the HHS and the public health enterprise. You'll recall the gentleman that was obsessed with stealing a woman's luggage and dresses.
Yeah, that dog guy. Yeah, he thought he
Yeah,
was Pluto. He needs to go back to Disney
and
World.
there was the um, what was her name? The public health officer.
Yeah. She was the picture perfect version of health, right?
Yeah, right. That was transsexual. Um, and this guy, I didn't even know this guy existed. I've been interacting with him at the CDC. He seemed a little overbearing and a little overconfident, is other words I might use. Uh, um, I had no idea. I guess I've been living under a rock about all this other stuff. Uh, but
He didn't smell
he,
sulfur when he walked by.
no, but I should have. Uh, um, so in any case, uh, that there was just a whole cascade of him claiming that Bobby was politicizing the CDC and the corporate media amplifying that message, and Schumer and others calling for Bobby's being fired. Ed Dowd comments about Schumer's position was that Bobby couldn't have had a better endorsement than Chuck Schumer attacking him like that. Uh, and then and by the way, David, this comes after 3 Fridays ago, this young man who lost his bearings shooting up the CDC and unfortunately killing a father of a young family who was a security guard there, which has resulted in virtually 90, quite literally over 90% of all CDC personnel have been working from home ever since, and quote unquote working from home, and don't have to return to work until September 15th. So that's a full 5 weeks of leave because the trauma of somebody in Atlanta spraying gunfire, an event that's really notoriously common in downtown Atlanta. But that's how it goes. And it's just been a total drama train. Uh, and then, uh, and then we had the president drop this statement that one way to look at it is, as you positioned it, that he is finally willing to question the work product of OWS. He's not saying that, and I think it's an important distinction from a getting the government to get something done. Operation Warp Speed is unprecedented. The all of government cooperation coordination was in the military civilian cooperation. All of that showed that under Donald Trump, the government gets stuff done and can get stuff done. Now, the logic of Peter Marks of throwing away the rule book in terms of regulatory affairs in order to make that happen, and the consequences of under Biden the coercion, compulsion, enticement, mandates of accepting this set of products that were produced. That's a whole different story. But credit where credit's due. The president did manage to get the government to get off its keister and get something done, and I think we all should respect that achievement. But the work product, many have sought to, including his own family members, from what I hear, have sought to get him to appreciate that the adverse events associated with these products and their lack of effectiveness is not something that he should be championing. And he found that out during his rallies, during the presidential campaign, where when he'd start talking about OWS and the vaccine, he was not getting the support that he thought he should get. But now he's finally come around, and I think that part of that, I speculate, may reflect the need to demonstrate support for his Secretary of HHS. And whether or not that was intention, that is absolutely what's happened, is that the chatter around this effort to get the secretary deposed has stopped. And David, the backstory that also needs to be appreciated is that the bioindustry organization had a memo leak. They had a total war chest for advocacy of $4 million. And they had met and decided to spend $2 million of that $4 million on the specific objective of getting Kennedy kicked out of his position by the end of September.
Wow.
So all of this buzz in harmonized corporate media attacks, et cetera, has to be considered in the context of a known political lobbying campaign to get Kennedy out of office by the bio industry, which is an organization which includes, of course, the manufacturers of vaccines, and that includes the mRNA products. I think that God must be looking over the secretary at this point, because I can't imagine having a better opponent than Dmitry, who is the self-styled leader of CDC that's resigned and positions himself as a scientist, whereas, near as I can tell, he has no scientific training at all.
Yeah.
So he's basically cloaked himself in the Fauciism of scientism. He hasn't said it, but it's pretty close that I am the science, and I shouldn't be questioned, and the CDC shouldn't be questioned, and the ACIP should not be looking into things that the CDC has already determined are safe and effective. So all of that was coming to a head when the president dropped this bombshell on Sunday morning. And I think that it just completely shifted the narrative. I was quite active on Monday because I was the target of some of this and have had hate coming at me like I haven't had, for at least 3 weeks since I was appointed to this ACIP. But
Which is just for folks who don't know, that's the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which is a committee
right.
within the CDC. So that's what your context is. You've been a part of that since June, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just had a lot of hate coming at me over social media, but this character who's also attacked me and attacked my credentials, uh, I posted what my credentials were and asked him what his were, and nothing was forthcoming. So I don't know what his CV is other than Harvard, MD, MPH, which is not, neither of those are scientific degrees. But um, I don't think he has any real achievements historically other than uh, these DEI appointments.
Right.
Uh,
And that's that Satanist guy still, or are we talking about somebody else?
that same guy,
Okay.
that's the same one. So
I
it's
didn't know
been an
DEI
interesting time,
stand for Devil's Equity and Inclusion. We need to remember what that means now, I guess, if under his.
I guess. Uh,
Um, but you're probably going to be a target because you're over the target and your track record of holding these people accountable, and they are wrong on so many things. It's dizzying, and I that's the thing. It's like how much time are you going to be able to get through? Do you have enough time to get through all the different things in
and
which?
the answer, David, is no.
Yeah,
Because of the active slow walking that has occurred over the last 7 weeks, uh, we're down to just a few weeks before the meeting, which is 18th and 19th of September. And so the subcommittee has to have its uh, whatever testimony it can acquire over the next 2 weeks and summarize that as a slide deck for the general ACIP presentation and come up with advice to what would have been the director of the CDC, but now she's no longer there. And so once again, our advice will flow up to the secretary who will make a decision about whether or not to accept it. Uh, um,
is this going to be part of?
so
Is this part of what Kennedy has promised regarding the autism report, or is this totally separate?
no, that's a separate thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, a lot of things are all these various threads or
coming to a
nodes are
head, aren't
coming
they?
together.
Yeah.
Um, and so with the COVID subcommittee, we have to make comments on 3 new vaccine products. And remember, as if there wasn't enough going on last week, the secretary announced that the emergency use authorization for the vaccines is finally rescinded. Is it a full year since the emergency was declared no longer active? But they somehow managed to grandfather the vaccine products for another better part of a year. Now that's rescinded. The 3 products, Novavax, Moderna, and Pfizer, have a limited marketing authorization, basically for elderly and high-risk individuals, including pediatric individuals. But they don't define what's high risk. So now that drops into our lap. We have to define what high risk is. Uh, um, it's all it just it's been a heck of a week, and early on we had Asim Malhotra. What what led him to decide to do an interview with the Daily Beast, I have no idea. But of course, the Daily Beast weaponized that. And he made statements unauthorized that the secretary was going to pull all these vaccines within a couple of months, which is not what happened. And that generated a whole lot of buzz. It's just been one thing after another on the CDC front. So no wonder the president, in the face of all the moving parts he's got going on, he's got big issues like tariffs and Iran and Russia-Ukraine war and what's going on in Israel and monetary policy and the Fed and blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, there's all this just uh, um, self-destruction happening at the CDC and all that drama, not what he needs. So he's basically put his foot down and said, uh, kids, stop fighting. I want this resolved and I want to see the data. And so say we all, right?
Yeah.
Um, uh, Thank you, Mr. President. That is exactly what I've been calling for. I testified in Great Britain in the House of Commons to that effect. Just show us the data. Let us analyze the data. No, we can't see the data. Uh, and that was essentially the position that was taken vis-a-vis the ACIP. No, we weren't going to be allowed to question the official CDC analyses. And to his credit, Retzef Levy went to the mat. Took him 7 weeks, and and basically, near as I can tell, resignation of four top officials, including the director of the CDC, to finally get to the point where they're agreeing that they're going to show us the data, more or less. So when there's that much opposition to such a simple request, it certainly seems like an indicator that there's something rotten in Denmark.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I saw a post by this lady named Lauren Lee. I'm not familiar with her, but she um, talks about MAHA stuff, and she was posting on Twitter about the origins of the CDC itself. It used to be the U.S. Public Health Service, and it engaged in some of the most, she says, horrifying eugenics experiments of all time.
It's true.
They engaged in sterilizing 60,000 people deemed unfit, including African Americans, Native Americans, Latinos, and the poor.
There's the Tuskegee
Yeah.
experiments with syphilis. Uh,
So if that's their origin, and then you look at some of the things that they prioritize that they're most proud of on their website, top 10 greatest medical accomplishments was abortion, fluoridation, and vaccines are at the top. So, if you look at all three of those things, we know what fluoridation's doing, we know what abortion does, and we suspect that some of these vaccines may also be harming people. And it makes you just wonder what in the world is going on at that organization. Is it rotten to the core? And I also wonder, why was Susan Monarez appointed anyways? I mean, we already knew what she was. I mean, everybody was, was it
that
just to see what she would do so we could just see it on the record or something? And
one speculation is that that was a Cassidy give.
oh, okay. So
And
Cassidy must be furious right now. Huh.
well, and that's part of the backstory that's being reported in some outlets is that one of her big sins leading up to the meeting with Bobby last Monday, in which she was given the opportunity to work elsewhere, uh, was that she had gone to Cassidy to complain about Bobby.
Yeah.
And I just don't see how, if you're going to do that, uh, how do you recover from that? That's if you're going to kill the king, you darn well better succeed. Forgive the metaphor, uh, because otherwise he's going to come for you.
Yeah.
There's no way that Donald Trump can tolerate a third level appointed position, even if they are Senate confirmed, that is going around the back of one of his cabinet secretaries and undermining him.
Yeah.
That's just Donald Trump has got too much business experience to go along with that kind of stuff. So she basically committed suicide. And the back political suicide and the backstory that I've heard is that she had made a commitment to Cassidy or something in her confirmation process where she had said that she will not fire any of the senior staff at ACIP, including this character that we're just referring to. And Kennedy insisted that she do so, and she refused, and that was that. And it was time, even though she's only a month in since her confirmation, it was time to move on. And when I'd written the article supporting her appointment, because Kennedy was supporting her, I made the case that, because this is what I had heard, was that as acting director, Bobby was very happy with what she'd done. She had terminated some people, cleaned things up a little bit, and that he thought she had the chops to do the job, to reform the CDC. But for whatever reason, she was resistant. And it all came in the context of this issue of the terms of reference, which is the bureaucratic phrase for basically the scope of work, having to do with the ACIP coronavirus subcommittee. And the insistence of the CDC staff that they be able to largely determine what would be asked and investigated by the subcommittee,
Right.
and who would they be able to contact to gain testimony from. The CDC senior management wanted to control all that. And to his credit, Retzef-Levy was not going to tolerate that. And in the end, after weeks of obstructionism, it came to a head. So I don't know, I haven't talked to Bobby or to his deputy chief of staff, Stephanie Spear, about the cascade that happened, but clearly something happened. And then those that resigned went to the press like usual, and with their whining complaints, and the press amplified it because, hey, any attack on Bobby is good press, they think. And it blew back on him. There's still, I think, the corporate media doesn't appreciate how powerful the grassroots Make America Healthy Again movement is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
and
I think
go
his,
ahead.
his policies with some of the tariffs are up in the air, and some of the border, deportations are not up to the expectations of the MAGA base so far, and his record on trying to resolve these conflicts with peace are up in the air. So this is an area where he can really get some big wins, and maybe that's why he's pivoting. Maybe he's looking at the intractability of Putin and the Europeans and everything, and he's saying, you know what, this is an area where I can kind of, it's a lot of bureaucratic pushback, but maybe I can make some inroads from my base in a way they weren't expecting, and that might give us some positivity boost because, he lost like 40 points in the youth. The youth really carried him, and a lot of these swing voters really carried him. The millennials and Gen Z, he's plummeted dramatically with them due to his continual support for the Gaza situation and some of the other things. But this is an area where he can kind of pivot and maybe change the news a little bit because. I think a lot of people are thinking this is some of the brightest stuff they're seeing out of the administration, and I'm glad folks like you are there. I wanted to ask you, recently I saw Secretary Kennedy comment on a podcast about how he's declaring an end to the FDA's war on an alternative medicine. And I also have seen from the appointed deputy, well, he's the deputy secretary of HHS, Jim O'Neill. He's also the acting CDC director. He talked
Yep.
about how heart disease, this is a tweet he made, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and other diet related illnesses kill 7 out of 10 Americans, and nutrition drives those diseases. It must be the core of medical education. So these are some big fundamental changes, and
Yep.
I've written about seed oils a lot, and I've done so on your website. Do you think these are things that are going to be really able to be effectively targeted in some way?
I think that we will, David, we will learn volumes when the leaked and anticipated next MAHA Commission report drops, which
When
is
is
supposed
that
to be any
coming?
day now.
Any day now. Huh?
Um, I mean, yeah, once again, the news cycle here is just wicked.
Yeah.
But that is supposed to be the action plan. The prior one was the threat assessment. This is the action plan. And by their actions, you will know them. What's anticipated and disappointing to many is that there is unlikely to be significant movement on the use of glyphosate as a desiccant. And some of the issues having to do with agriculture crop policy and the food supply. That's may well disappoint the MAHA base.
Yeah, that's Brooke Rollins' deal over there at the Ag USDA.
Well stated. So, because the MAHA Commission is an all-of-government entity, and it's not just Bobby making policy. So, it's all negotiated with interest groups and lobbyists and everything else. So, that's likely to, as I see it, to disappoint the MAHA base. And are we going to see movement on seed oils? Once again, the problem with seed oils is that it touches on the president's core constituency in agriculture states.
Yeah.
And he really does not want to piss off farmers as he heads into the midterms.
Yeah.
I mean, this is right now, it's already all about the midterms all the time.
Right.
Don't, that you just anything that happens in DC, you have to filter it through the lens of the political implications for the midterms, in my opinion.
No, you're right.
And that
There's
includes all of this
big,
CDC drama.
big corn, big soy, big all that, and they do not want to remove any kind of government subsidies or anything that they get for the production of industrial seed oils. They could easily make a pity party showing small business restaurants going out of business because somebody's made seed oils more expensive and they can't cook their food and keep the prices. I mean, there's a lot of ways they can make sob stories and media
Yep.
campaigns. So it's tough, but that's the difference between those who are founding fathers level stock and those who are lesser
I
men.
love it. I absolutely love that framing. Yep.
Because at the
Yep.
end of the day,
So,
there's a disconnect between the special interests that control both parties and what the constituents of both parties want, and they want real traction. They're learning very quickly. I remember I say this all the time to you, but in 2018, I was on national radio and podcasting talking about the seed oil topic in a political context, and nobody knew what they are. And now they've learned very quickly, and they've realized how central these products should not be a part of our food supply, but it's not going to happen overnight. But at least there needs to be at least some moral clarity from the health messaging from our government as we try to find transitionary ways out of it. One of the things that
yep.
transitions out of it is to promote American beef. And if you can get Trump to understand, beef tallow and that kind of thing as an alternative, that's a way to win for the farmers. I mean, and those guys that feed corn and soybean oil straight into the seed oil, they could sell that to the beef cattle, who then turn the fat of the beef into tallow, and that supplies restaurants like Steak and Shake. So, you see what I mean? There's ways to, there's ways to make wins out of this without ticking off the
Yep,
farmers.
I agree. That is the kind of creative thinking and problem solving we need. David, I nominate you for the President's Commission on Food Purity and Integrity,
There we go. Let's do
yet
it.
to be
So,
announced.
hey, I appreciate your time. I know you got to run soon, but just kind of give us your bottom line thoughts on all the, I did mention a lot in the middle of this interview that he is going to challenge the war on alternative medicine, which is very exciting to hear for me, because this policing and criminalization of alternatives, solutions for diseases has got to stop. The FDA has its own police force. It's like a little military they've got their own little courts, and they don't play by the same rules that Americans would expect. And they've really used the commercial speech regulations with the FTC in tow to really clamp down and create a lot of terrible consequences for people who step out of the line of conventional pharmaceutical drugs. So I'm hoping
And
he
to
can,
what end?
yeah, yeah,
What's the upside on all of that, other than uh, serving their evil masters?
yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah,
And I had another call earlier today from somebody that has an excellent, very GRAS safe based treatment for respiratory congestion,
yeah,
and they cannot get the agency to give them the time of day.
yeah,
And this is, I just, everywhere I go, I hear these horror stories
yeah,
of perfectly good technology and products that are very safe, that are just being killed by FDA bureaucrats that I don't understand where this is all coming from, but I concur. It's great news, and maybe reflects in part your advocacy over these many years.
I remember
I,
telling Jim O'Neill, who's now the CDC director, and I remember telling him years ago in a personal conversation that I said, you've really got to look at how basically the FDA de facto criminalizes, you know, the idea of having alternative medical solutions, because you can't afford, you can't, if you've got something with vitamin C in it or vitamin D that can help with a certain health condition, you can't patent it. So you've already de facto basically criminalized any kind of communication to the customer about what it can do for certain diseases, because they can't get through the FDA drug approval process, which makes it considered an unapproved drug to interstate commerce, which is a federal felony. So I said, you got to really look at that. So here, all these years later, he's in the wrong, he's at the CDC, but he's still at
that's interesting
HHS.
that you say that. It's interesting you say that because one of the things he's known for is his right to try position,
Yeah.
which is consistent. So maybe you did have an impact, maybe not as big as one as you'd like, but these things play over time.
Yeah, it does. It does. You have these conversations and you never know where those things go. What can folks do to, is there anything the general public can do to help you and where you're at? I mean, is there crowdsourcing or something that needs to go on to get some of the data combined? Or, I mean, is there any involvement the public can do?
Um, I think right now, given the environment, anything that you can do in any channel, whether it's writing to your senator, Congress critter, social media, or whatever, to support Secretary Kennedy is crucial. We have to push back against these promoted media narratives and the bioorganizations, money, and everything else. And I think we can do it. I think we're already doing it. I think that being active intellectually and vocal in your community and in the broader context in support of these things that matter to you, the listener, whether it's food supply integrity, seed oils, any aspect of the Make America Healthy agenda, including the importance of physical exercise something that Secretary Hagsworth and Secretary Kennedy are both actively promoting. I think that getting with the program and making it clear that you don't want your children to live shorter, sicker lives, and you're willing to go to the mat to avoid that. That's what needs to be heard. That's what will overcome the lobbyists and special interest groups that we have to beat back. But as you know, David, now I'm being asked to
Yeah.
log on to OAN
Yeah.
and talk to Matt Gates.
Well, tell them I said hello, and we'll talk again soon. And best of luck. Stay away from those Satanists, why don't you?
Yeah, we need an exorcism, and I think Retzef Levy may be our exorcist.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.
Okay, bye.